everybody, and welcome to the Open Equine Market Commentary for the week of March 25th. My name is Toby Gennaro from Trade with Precision, and just coming to you this week with the outlook on the markets. And here we are on the S&P 500, looking at the big cap stocks, the ES futures contract, representative of that, and looking at the some of the monthly candles here. We're still in looking fairly bearish to indecisive on this month of April, but we still have about another 8 days left in the month or so, and so we're not going to know till this candle closes out, basically by the end of, pretty much the middle of next week, and then we'll see what that candle's starting to look like. But we can go down to some of the lower time frames to see what trade setups might be occurring, or try to get some direction on which way the markets are heading. And so just looking at the weekly chart, the next time frame down, we have a pullback basically to that 10-day period average, which we've seen that quite a bit. We saw it back here, and we saw it, some other times throughout this trend. So when we get these pullbacks, get a bullish candle and get a break of the high, looks like we're back off to pulling away then from the moving averages and putting in then a fresh new high. So let's go down to some of the lower time frames and you figure out if we can get more granular with this. Looking at the daily chart, we can see that we got some overextension here, and then got a pretty nice pullback. And it looked like things were looking pretty good right around this level at 1539. We made a move, pretty strong move, back up to 1568, and then basically put in, and that was essentially the 62% retracement of this move down, and then got a quick sell-off, and then basically put in a new low all the way back down to really what's starting to look like a potential neckline of a reversal pattern here. So we're getting a bounce off of that. We just got a nice bullish candle in here. We got a break of the high today, and so it looks like we're going to be moving higher, at least back into this 1568 level. And if you check your charts from last week, there's also at 1568.50, there's also a gap fill that did not fill from last week, and so that could potentially be a target. And by the way, that's also a 62% retracement from the most recent high to the most recent low. So a little bit of a cluster there. So I'd be looking around that 1568, 1569. 70 level for some sellers coming in. That might be the first signal of a pullback on the move, potentially back up to this 1594 level. So it really depends on what happens around 1570, 1569. We'll have to pay attention to see how that looks. As we move down to the 480 chart, we can see things and see some of these different levels that we're going through, and we just basically blew through this level here at around 1553. And just put in a fresh high, so we have a higher low, and now we have a higher high on a fairly high time frame. And just looking at some of the other time frames here, we can see that a little better on the 120-minute chart. Basically putting in that low there right around that 1530 level, and then putting in a higher low, and now a higher high, looking to move up to that next stop, which is going to be that right around that 1570 level. So keep an eye out for that. Should be market's looking pretty bullish here again, moving back up, just a pullback on the daily chart, and then a pullback to the 10-period moving average on the weekly chart. And then moving over to the small cap stocks, looking at the Russell 2000 contract, and we've been talking about this monthly chart for a while, that flat level there that we broke some time back. At the 860 level. At some point, we're going to get a pullback into that 860 level. Not sure if that's going to happen now or later, but we do have a very bearish-looking candle, rather, on the monthly chart that hasn't closed out yet. Still need another 8 days to close that out. But as we move over to the weekly chart, we get a little bit more information on this most recent pullback. We had some overextension there. Nice bullish candle set up back here. Got a break of the high of that. Put in that overextension, then got a pullback beyond that normal 10-period moving average all the way back to the 20, but still within that 10-20 period buy zone. So all we need on the weekly chart is basically just a setup candle there, a bullish setup candle, and then the break of the high of that setup candle, and that'll signify to us that there's potentially more room to the upside looking at the weekly chart. But getting a little bit more granular and coming down to some of these other time frames like the daily chart, we can see that we had really a flat level set in there right around 951. Had a series of touches there, and as you can see with the most recent touch and the most recent high here, we had quite a bit of divergence setting up on both the MACD and the RSI. Got a pullback then back off of that level, and then all the way down to this basically 895 level, not quite down to 891. and then set up a reversal pattern on some of the smaller time frames, and then we're getting a bounce off of that to some higher highs and higher lows off of that level. And you can see that reversal pattern starting to set up a little bit here on the 480 chart. As we go down to some of the lower time frames, you can see that better on the 240, that leveled in right around 895, 894. Then you can see some of the divergence setting in on the indicators there. Price hasn't essentially moved necessarily that much lower, but with the equal touches, we're getting higher lows in the indicators, which is signaling that there could be a potential significant bounce off of this level. And you can see that pretty good on the 120-minute chart. You can see that divergence setting in with those 4 touches, and you can even see it pretty well on the 60-minute chart. So you really have that diverging setup across multiple time frames, which is a pretty strong indicator that we're going to get a move off of that level to the opposite direction. So we just don't know at this point going into the week. The S&P 500 looks pretty bullish. So the next stop here, we have some resistance here right around this 914 level. Next stop after that would be right around 921, and then the bigger level up around 933. So things are looking pretty good. Very bullish candle there on the 240, break of the high of that candle. Things are looking pretty bullish again on the small cap stocks, and if we can break some of these key levels through till the end of the week, we might be able to get back up into this 951 resistance level once again, and then we'll have to see what the market looks like there. But for right now, just looking at some of these setups on some of the lower time frames, like the 60-minute, the 30-minute, and looking for those pullbacks, and then some of those moves back up into that, at least that 921 area, and then we'll have to see what happens there and what the markets might have in store for us this week. But overall, things are looking, once again, fairly bullish across most of the U.S. indices, and the Russell is no doubt doing something similar. And looking at a foreign currency pairing here on the euro yen, we can see on the monthly chart had a bottom out set up here about 7-8 months ago, and you can see just got a rip roaring bounce off of that level. Got a lot of extension here on the monthly chart, but the market's still pushing higher. Just looking at the weekly chart, see we just got another pullback here to the 10-period moving average right within that buy zone, just after a little deeper pullback here within that buy zone. But got a nice bullish candle set up here. Looks like we're breaking the high of that candle. Very bullish sign right there. As we move down to some of the other time frames, like the daily, looks like we're getting pullbacks to levels of price support. So the market's looking very predictable in terms of the price action. We got great geometry on the moving averages. All the moving averages are fanning out all to the upside. Things are looking pretty strong. Same on the 480 chart. And so as we move down to look for some of our setups on some of these strategy setup trades that we've been teaching in the advanced course, if you look at the 120-minute chart, we have all those moving averages in very nice alignment, and we actually have a pullback into that buy zone. Nice bullish candle setup right there on the 120-minute chart. We don't have a break at the high yet, so we have to wait for the break at the high of that candle according to the strategy, and then we would take the break of the high with our stop just below the low in case we're wrong. We go down to the 60-minute chart. Looks like we've got 2 very bullish candles setting up right there, right in the middle of the buy zone. If we can get this candle to close out bullish, the next candle would be looking for a break of the high of that candle. And then once we get the break of the high of that candle, looks like we might be off to the races back to potentially a new high. As we can see here on the 30-minute chart, a pair of nice bullish candles there. And it looks like if we get a break of the high of those series of candles or stop below the low, looks like we can potentially make a move back up beyond that 136 level. So things looking pretty good on this little trend here for the euro yen. And that'll wrap up the outlook for the markets. We'd like to thank you all for watching the opening cry market commentary for the week of April 22nd. And we do look forward to speaking to you next week on the market update.